Good afternoon, fellow Nigerians. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, thank you for joining us today on this historic occasion in the democratic process of our nation. Just a few weeks ago, young Nigerians made history when the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, signed into law the Not Young to Run Bill, a process that required months of organizing, marching, protesting, and working together with elected representatives to pass what was an amendment of our constitution that will open up the space for more participation by young people in Nigeria. Throughout the world, the Not Young to Run movement drew the attention of anyone interested in youth participation in the politics of our nation. For some of us, the rationale was simple. If we are headed towards a future that will be defined by technology, an information-based economy, and a fourth industrial revolution, then we, the young people of our country who will be alive in that future, need to have a seat at the table of governance. It is only logical that those who have a stake in the future are part of the decision makers of what happens in that future. Today, we affirm that indeed, we are not too young to run the affairs of and participate in the building and development of our nation into the exact country the way we want it to be. As it has been obvious, we are led and represented by leaders who have little understanding of what our future demands. The pace of our development is so slow. The pace of our population growth is so fast. The urgency of our reforms is non-existent, even as our representatives and leaders continue to debate mundane things. All this continues to happen even as doomsday gets closer by the minute. As the official poverty capital of the world, by that I mean Nigeria now has the highest number of poor people in the world. As the official poverty capital of the world, our women continue to die from childbirth. Why should our wives and young mothers continue to die into the 21st century? Because they are trying to give birth to another. Our educational system continues to rotten even as our population growth continues to increase astronomically. Why are we not asking the questions, how do we intend to educate 200 million Nigerians that will be under 20 years of age in the next 20 years? Are we going to be using brick and mortar? Or are we going to be using technology? Our young talents are either finding ways to cross our porous borders to other countries in search of greener pastures to as close as Ivory Coast or Ghana, even as our own police force continue to threaten and brutalize the ones that remain. In all of this, our parliament has largely turned deaf ears to the cries of the average Nigerian youth, choosing to pass legislation that favors only the elite and kill or pass under the carpet the bills that put education and prosperity in the reach of the average Nigerian youth. We want to ask, for example, why has the Nigerian Education Bank, established by Decree number 53 of 1993, failed to provide funds not more than 32,000 naira in the last 4 years, and has not had up to 10,000 beneficiaries for the past 20 years that it has been established? Why has the Students' Loan Bill pending in the House of Representatives for years now, in an age where every tertiary student has a BVN number, and that can be used to process and track applications? Is the House of Representatives more interested in stifling the press with the recent press corp bill than interested in the education of our ever-increasing students? Why does Section 36(5) and 6 of the Land Use Act, for example, prohibit and punish the alienation of the use of agricultural land so that such land cannot be used as collateral or financial instruments that free up capital? Is it logical that I can buy a plot of land and put a structure of 2 million naira on that land and take it to the bank to get a loan, but I cannot get 10 acres of farmland and put up 10 million naira of farms, of agricultural products, and the bank will not collect that as a collateral for my capital? Again, when we say that our laws are made and sustained to be beneficial to a select few, to the detriment of the average Nigerian youth, what we mean is the kind of laws that exist to keep away prosperity and societal benefits away from the young people of Nigeria. Another example of this is the Income Tax Relief Act, which pegs the qualifying capital expenditure of companies to enjoy tax relief at 100 million naira if it is indigenous and 120 million naira if it is not indigenous. Where is the plan for the millions of SMEs and technology startups that create the innovation that our leaders boast of when they give speeches all over the world? Why does the Public Procurement Act, for example, not have a percentage of all public procurement set aside for MSMEs across the country, especially for those that are enabled by technology, if truly we have a tech-friendly government? It is now crystal clear beyond any iota of doubt that those who claim to represent us as a constituency, as a young Nigeria, the young demography in Nigeria, as a constituency, are not in any way privy to our issues, nor do they care about them. Assuming without considering that they do care, to what extent are they capable of understanding the issues and pushing reforms in that area? Of all the 4 or more committees in the National Assembly on ICT and technology, each of these committees usually have about 10 or 15 members. Just about 2 or more, or about 2 people have a background in technology as their core legislative interest. In fact, there are video records on the internet of a chairman of one of the committees on ICT narrating how his daughter was making jest of him because he couldn't operate an iPad. And he's the Senate committee chair on one of the ICT committees. Our generation must rise, as we have a solemn obligation to ensure that our country does not become more irredeemable than it is already turning out to be. In spite of the political drama in our country, with the defections from within political parties, we have a duty to ensure that the policy issues that matter to our generation and our demography receive adequate attention, and that laws are passed that favors the sectors that affect us directly as young people. We must then identify those amongst us who are qualified to push forward these reforms in our agenda and ensure that we get them elected and that they begin to pursue these reforms in the interest and the progress of our demography. The task at the core of the campaign that we're launching today is to break the hold. Our organization, Raising New Voices Initiative, will be working to support the emergence and the election of young, competent Nigerians who understand, as Martin Luther King Jr. once put it, the fierce urgency of now. We'll be working with them to get elected into the House of Representatives in 2019. We'll be working with exactly 25 candidates, pursuing and cutting across the 6 geopolitical zones in the country and across different political parties. They will be pursuing an agenda that cuts across 2 categories of reforms: sectoral reforms, which will include 3 sectors: technology and innovation, economy, and education, and then governance reforms, which will include anti-corruption, lean government, and civil service reforms, especially police service reforms. Our comprehensive legislative agenda can be found on and downloaded from our website, raisingNewVoices.org. Our hope is that in supporting these candidates to get elected into parliament, Nigerians both at home and in diaspora will join our campaign in crowdfunding the resources, both financial, physical, and material, to ensure that they get elected. In more specific terms, the campaign is taking between 200,000 and 250,000 Nigerians who will be willing to crowdfund at least 5,000 naira each to get these people to provide financial resources for these candidates. Our volunteer-led crowdfunding initiative will be partnering with Yaga's Ready to Run movement to select and vet the candidates that we will be working with, and the International Republican Institute to ensure that spendings are monitored and that their campaigns can comply with existing electoral laws. Every donor who gives to the campaign will be sent a souvenir pack, which contains a lapel pin that they can use to advertise the campaign more, and a support card that they can hold and show to any candidate who gets elected on that platform after they get elected that I gave to your campaign and you hold me some accountability. It must be reiterated that these candidates will come from across different political parties, as we'll be working with Yaga to identify young reform-minded Nigerians. And these young reform-minded Nigerians, we must say, are in every political party. We will especially work with candidates whose party agenda are clearly aligned with ours, not just in word, but in deed. Before I invite our partners who are present here to speak, after which we will address the questions from the press, I must make mention of them, without whose help we will not be here today. The brains behind the North Young to Run movement, Yaga, as I earlier mentioned, are here, and I offer their support to this initiative from the get-go. And our partnership with the Ready to Run movement will help to ensure the credibility of candidates we are working with and the success of our campaign. The International Republican Institute, who have worked in the political and democratic process of our country for the past 17 years or more, have continued to offer immense support for young Nigerians, and our organization is grateful to be partnering with them also on this initiative. In also presenting our message to the Nigerian people, we are partnering with Voice of the People, a volunteer-led organization who is committed to hearing the people's voices and amplifying it. Deep Dive Intelligence, Civic Hive, and much more importantly, Ventures Platforms, who are hosting us here today. They are organizations who continue to lay the foundation for a Nigeria that is built on technology and innovation. And all these organizations have offered support to this initiative, both in terms of infrastructure and policy formulation. So we have a 27-page agenda that can be downloaded on our website, like I said, raisingnewvoices.org, and it contains bills and policies, detailed bills that these caucus will be going to Parliament to pursue when they get elected. I'm optimistic. We are hosted here, for example, by Gracious Timber Ventures Park here. As the fourth realm of the estate, I am glad that the press have continued to also play their role in informing our citizens of the options available to them in our democracy. And your presence here reinforces that narrative. We're grateful. I'm optimistic that even where there are lapses, especially in hearing unpopular voices, that the press will continue to strive to do better. In conclusion, I am convinced that Nigeria will be the most technologically advanced country in the world by 2075. Our citizens will be the best experts in all things technology and innovation. We will lead the world in security, defense, telemedicine, logistics, commerce, manufacturing, and rapid infrastructure setting. With technology, we will blur the lines between life and death and revolutionize medicine. We will not only break the barriers and enter the uncharted spaces of physics and science, we will create a new world beyond the planet Earth and create a whole new experience that has not even come into the imagination of even the most advanced scientists. I have said all this not just because I am overtly optimistic or because I'm in a fantasy world, but because I know that a new generation of Nigerians will be born in the next 2 decades. And we will have the opportunity to harness their creativity and their innovative minds. Let me say this, more than any country on earth in decades to come, Nigeria will have something that no other country will have. That's a massive population of young minds. And we will prepare to harness the creativity that young minds can give. And much more than any country on earth, we'll have the youngest and the brightest, and we will change the narrative for the black race forever. This dream is about the future. Our initiative to break the hold that has kept us away from the journey to that future is about today. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and thank you for coming.